Malaysia. We're gonna have a look around this historic city. It's got a lot of Portuguese, Dutch, Malay and English heritage, and we're gonna check a lot of it today. Let's have a look around. This old town is filled with so many beautiful old buildings. There's some newer buildings that have been put into place. I don't know if they're built on the foundation of older buildings or if they're just completely new, but like for example, this kind of old building in the front of us here is obviously not that old. It might be partly old and rebuilt or something, it's not clear, but it looks really cool. It totally fits in to the old style of the town itself. Malacca is one of the nicest looking towns in Malaysia for sure. So this place is obviously very old. Love the yellow steps. Wow. Back here there's some other small old places. Something I love about Asia is all the small alleyways. This place is the one I mean that's not really old, I think. But they've made it in the old style, so it really fits in. I wish more places would do stuff like that. This place looks like it's from the 1950s. It's a good example of how you can even renovate a building from that time and make it look really cool. So they've made a pretty nice hotel there. We're not going to look at every single old looking street in this town. We'll leave something for you to find, of course, but we'll have a look at some of the more interesting spots to give you a good taste. Shop's pretty cool. Interesting local snacks. Okay, we're coming up to the main street. It's actually through there, but there's kind of a triangle. This little part here is kind of a triangle part. We'll walk around. Lots of food in Malacca. It's a place that became famous through the spice trade about, I guess, involving Europeans and Asia about 500 to 600 years ago. So today it's still a really amazing place for food. Last night I came past here, they had a performance. Last night this street was set up as a street market with all kinds of food being cooked. It was amazing. Hopefully tonight it'll be the same. If so, I'm gonna film a little bit down here to show you guys. So coming around that little triangular bit. This is the main street of the town. Last night it was so packed full of people. Look like mostly Malaysians, maybe Singaporeans as well. Very few Europeans. The first time I came here was 10 years ago, and it was very quiet in that time. But like almost all of the buildings had been like freshly painted and renovated. I don't know, I guess they might have had a kind of city plan for that, which is pretty cool. It would be nice if Kuala Lumpur could do the same thing. Penang is a good example of how people can really make a old town look amazing as well with renovation. Georgetown in Penang. But it actually looks better here now because the paint has had time to age, so it looks more normal, more lived in. 10 years ago it looked a little bit too perfect. Some foot massage places down there. You need your feet massage, which I guess a lot of people might after walking around all day. It's pretty warm out right now, but not too bad. We're right on the coast. Of course, with Malacca being a trading port, and there's a river right through the middle, the old trading ships could pull right up into the river and park up here. So the sea is only about, I guess, 10 or 15 minutes walk away from here to the river mouth, which I haven't seen yet. So we'll have a look at that later. Might remember that tower down there where we started at the opposite end of that road. So I'm doing a big loop at the moment around the streets that I like the most. Don't know why people want to drive through here. It seems like not a sensible idea, really. I guess there's a bit of parking in here, but Seems like it would be pretty competitive, and kind of optimistic to hope to find a spot to park in here. A lot easier just parking a few blocks out. Stinky tofu and some options that are pork free. So should I ask for, should I say I want pork, and then when they ask for money I'll say it says it's free. Come on, what it says free. Guy doing there, banging away like nobody's business. This is basically the entrance to the Chinatown area, which we've just walked through a lot of. People seem to be in line for some kind of food. Seems to happen a lot in Southeast Asia that some kind of small restaurants get really popular and you see lines of people outside. But when I try these kinds of places, I find they're like a tiny bit better than other places, but not that great. People seem to really get into the whole thing of following the trend with stuff like that. Here's the river here. So out there is the sea, not far away at all. So the old ships would have pulled in here back in the day. This would have been a busy port for trading spices and who knows what. Probably whatever you would be willing to pay for, I guess. But yeah, especially spices. Spices were worth more than gold back then. So on the other side is the Dutch area, which we'll have a look at later. But now we're going to have a look along the river, going inland a little bit. There's this really cool river walk here. When I came here 10 years ago, this river walk, it looked like it was kind of a fairly newish thing. It's changed a lot. Now there's tons of pubs and cafes along it. So on the other side you can see these Colonial Dutch buildings. And this color, I would presume, was the color that the Dutch liked to paint their colonial buildings in their colonies all around the world. Whereas the French preferred a kind of a mustard color, which you see in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, etc. And the British seem to prefer white. And there are some British buildings here from the British time as well, with British style. So let's keep going, go a bit further down here, and I'll show you the river walk. It's got a different vibe to it. At night it's really a pretty chill place to sit by the river and have a cold beer. Let's have a look. Street art has really taken off in, I would say, the last decade in Southeast Asia. About 11 years ago, when I started to spend a lot of time in this region, it wasn't really a big thing. It was there a little bit here and there, but It's really exploded in the last 11 years, which is really fantastic. I mean, look at this and the style, you know, there's so many cool designs. It really adds a lot. 11 years ago, actually it was 11 years ago when I first came here, this part along the side here, it was like the backsides of the buildings facing into the road on the other side, and you could see it was not really set up in the way it is now. Now they've made entrances from this side. See, some places are not really set up. There's still a lot more potential to be tapped into. Like on the other side here, it wasn't like so pretty, but it was still kind of interesting. See, even there's work ongoing. But yeah, now it's a totally cool hangout spot along here. There's even like a reggae bar, one of these ones. Last night it was pumping out the reggae. Of course, it's okay to drink a bit of alcohol in this country, even though it's a Muslim country. But other things people like to do at reggae bars would not be allowed. They're very strict in Malaysia about what you can put into your body. Some of you might have heard that Thailand has recently decriminalized ganja. Well, one of the latest reports I've heard is Malaysia has been doing random testing of people coming in from Thailand. I think mostly Malaysian citizens, I don't think other people, checking their blood, or maybe not their blood, maybe other bodily fluids for traces of cannabis. And if they find it, they charge people with possession, which is very serious in this country. How serious, I'm not sure exactly, but definitely serious enough that you wouldn't want to be having any problems with that kind of thing. Just a FYI. Personally, I don't imbibe anymore. Back in the day, it was a different story. But it's kind of been there, done that kind of thing for me. Alright, let's get over here. Cheery looking post boxes. A little bit of an English vibe somehow, slightly. One of the things I really love about Malaysia for Southeast Asia is just a little bit more organized than most of the countries, I guess, except Singapore. And of course it obviously comes from the British influence in particular. Just makes things a little bit more smooth. But you know, it's still Southeast Asia and can be a bit unpredictable at times, and it's nice to check everything 2 or 3 times to make sure things are how you want them to be. I've been spending a lot of time in Southeast Asia over the last 11 years, and Malaysia's definitely one of the places I find to be a bit more relaxing, but not that relaxed, okay, but definitely quite relaxing. Looks like a good outdoor spot. Yeah, it's a bit warm today, but not too bad. Definitely can feel a little bit of sea breeze coming in. That's another thing I like about Malaysia. A lot of the more interesting places, towns and cities, are close to the coast, so they don't seem to feel quite as hot as some of the cities in other countries in the region that are set more inland and get really, really steamy and humid and hot and sweaty. This looks like a great little spot, and I came past here last night. There were no tables or chairs. It looks like an ideal spot. I would love to get one of these old buildings if it were possible somehow and set up a really cool kind of a business of some type. Maybe like a kind of combination of businesses. But I think it would be pretty complicated. But there's still quite a few buildings that look abandoned in the old town. So at night time, there's a fair few number of people wandering up and down the river here, sitting at some of these places we passed back there, drinking beer, coffees, teas, chatting with people, walking up and down. Pretty cheery. I noticed last night there's this boat service here. It's a tourist boat. It's not for normal public transportation. I think someone told me it costs around maybe 6 or 7 euro or American dollars, something like that, in the local currency, which is of course ringgit. How much is that in ringgit? I don't remember right now. And the boat goes inland maybe about 1 kilometer. I'm not sure what that boat ride is really like, if it's really great or not. There seems to be like a fair few number of things to do. There's a few museums that look worth checking out in town. There's a maritime museum and a history museum and a couple other ones. I might check a couple later on. These paintings are very cool. This is the kind of people, these are the kind of people you would have seen if you came here in the old days on a Portuguese or Dutch spice ship looking to do a bit of trading. That would have been amazing. Imagine what it was like back then. Imagine the thrills and delights coming into this place as a sailor back in the days when there were European trading settlements set up here. I bet they had a bloody good time. Yeah, those were the good old days. Of course, among foreigners who live in Southeast Asia, people talk about the good old days. People say, oh, the 80s were the good old days. You've missed them. And then other people say, no, the 70s and the 60s, they were the good old days. And then other people, very old people, say, no, the years after World War II, they were the good old days. But of course, there's the time before that as well. This is a kind of unusual looking mosque over on the corner here. Yeah. Aye, Jimmy, the 1600s, them was the good old days. And I bet they were in many ways too. Let's head through here. All these old kind of colonial towns, or most of them in Southeast Asia, have these really cool covered walkways which keep the sun off your head and the rain off your head, except of course where some annoying people like to block them. In Malaysia it's not such a big problem with that as it is in some other countries nearby here. Here's a really cool building. As I said earlier, there's still, well, you know, a fair few abandoned buildings in this town, and I would love to get one. This one is amazing. Imagine what you could do with this place. Let's have a look inside. Looks really dodgy. Looks like it would be easy to have something fall down and hit you on the head in here. Look at this. This could all just come crumbling down at any second. Fantastic place. Hopefully no snakes inside. I have room for you, mister. Cheap, very cheap. So if you're on a really real shoestring budget, this place is maybe for you. Let's have a look in the back here. It's a bit scary. Not too bad in the daytime. Ooh, what's this? Okay, no dead bodies. No junkies. I'm not gonna go further back though. Okay, so I survived the ghost house. So you remember this tower. So we started on this street. Let's continue. So we've come full circle. Now we're gonna do a circle inside that circle. Let's head down here. Trying to tell us, maybe he's trying to warn us to keep out of the ghost house. There's a little alleyway heading back towards the river. Back in the day, of course, in the very old days, the river would have been a hub of activity. There would have been boats parked up along the sides with sailors working, unloading, loading, doing the stuff sailors do involving rum and things like that. And they would have come off the boats after the many months long journey from Europe. I think maybe it took at least 3 months, if not more. Who knows? I mean, maybe 1600s it took longer than that. I think in the 1800s it took 3 months. Well, maybe 2 months to here from Europe in the 1800s. So yeah, I guess at least 3 months in the 1600s. Something like that. And then imagine how they would feel. So imagine the relief when you'd get off the ship on dry land in a place with fresh food, drink, female companionship, or whatever else. I don't know. I guess there would have been a lot of opium dens here in that time, and basically every kind of vice you could imagine, for sure. It would have been pretty crazy. Imagine being a young sailor on your first trip out to Southeast Asia, first time out of Europe, and then this being the first place you were allowed a bit of freedom to get off the ship and have a look around. First time to see Asian people. First time to see pretty Asian girls and so many first times, new experiences, new things. Really would have been amazing and mind-blowing. Really mind-blowing. People come to these kind of places today as their first trips out of their homelands, and they find it really impressive, like really wow. But back in those days it would have been like going to another planet. I guess in those days that would have been the equivalent of space travel, really. I mean, sometimes I do feel like I'm on another planet, but yeah. Probably not quite as much as my ancestors did back in the day. Back in the day. Back in the good old days. The good old days. When you drink a bottle of rum and the surgeon would hack your leg off with a hacksaw and you'd bite down on a piece of ship's rope to handle the pain as they chopped your leg off. Good old days. From the good old golden days, I roamed around from town to town, but what cares I for praise? Indeed. Look at this one, abandoned. Look at that, so sad. I would love to be able to buy that and make some kind of cool thing. This road goes back to the bridge that we were on before, where you could see the Dutch buildings from that bridge. Actually, I didn't show you this side street here. Little side street, not exceptional, but I want to try to show all the side streets. I notice a lot of YouTubers, a lot of video bloggers, they do a walking tour, but they just show things in front of them. They don't show down the side streets. But that's not how we do it when we really travel, is it? When you walk around, you look everywhere around. But you got a sore neck at the end of the day. The reason I'm doing videos nowadays is because I'm like old school kind of traveler. I've been on the road for how many years now? Oh, well, since I was very young, I can say most of my life. But yeah, alone, traveling, backpacking, hitchhiking around the world. It's been, how long now? 35 years. A long time. I did it old school way, starting out. No travel guidebooks, didn't stay in hostels. Mostly hitchhiking, like 99% hitchhiking. Lots of amazing stories along the way. At one point I studied photography, did it a little bit for a while professionally. So many times when I've met people along the road, all around the world, different countries, people have said, dude, you should write a book. And more lately, people have said, dude, you should make a video blog. I've got amazing photos from so many places, really professional standard, and I've got lots of cool stories. So finally I thought, okay, it would be nice to get a little bit of the old school viewpoint, old school traveler style. Give some tips to people about how to travel on a shoestring budget. And yeah, pretty much I'm still doing it old school style. I don't hitchhike so much these days. In Southeast Asia, buses are so cheap. It doesn't seem to make sense to hitchhike that often unless there's no bus for the next 3 hours and you're near a highway, or if you're in some really remote location where there's no public transport. But yeah, I still do it reasonably often. In Europe, it's something I do a lot more often. And yeah, I've done it all around North America, USA, Canada, all around Siberia, New Zealand. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully I'll be doing a big series of videos over the next few years and can share some ideas with everyone.